Hey, y'all, I want to tell you a little bit about my dog story in keto. And her name was Koa, and kind of like pets in ketones. Well, it's more specifically dogs in keto. I'm sure there's other pets that you could do it with too. I just have experience with the dogs. And so a lot of people don't know this about my story, but my dog wasn't well. So I had a black lab. She was one of the most special, beautiful dogs. I hope everybody believes that about their dogs. But she was 100 pounds. She was a larger lab, and she was a silky fur. She could get beer out of the fridge, turn on lights, turn off lights, and she actually became kind of well known. She's a really neat dog I had, and by the age of 8, my dog was not well, and one of my best friends actually was a vet. And you could see her decline was significant. The back hips were going, her brain was sharp, but her body was falling apart. She had this little like skin marks on her and all these things happening, rashes popping up, and she couldn't even get in and out of the car anymore. We couldn't get her to walk around the block or walk very far. And it was tough. I was living alone. She's my only little thing I had in my life at the time. And it was a really tough challenge. And I was going through my own health challenges at the same time. I had Hashimoto's. I was really ill. And I'd gotten a lot better because I went on a ketogenic diet. Well, I went to my buddy who's a vet, and I've been doing my little Google research, and I looked at all these different things. We tried all these different medical-based diets, dog foods, and spent a lot of money trying to figure out what was going on with Koa, and we didn't get anywhere. Kidney function was really poor. And so finally we tried this new dog food, this special new dog food, and my buddy who's a vet got me all set up with it, and I was like, you know what? Why don't I try my diet? Why don't I try to put her on my diet? And I never really learned about a raw diet or ketogenic diet for dogs at the time because there just really wasn't a lot of information out there on it. But I was just thinking, like, from primitive perspectives, dogs would have probably ate more like I was eating than any kind of food source. And at the time, there was no other really good food, like dry food options out there. There's actually a few now, but no other good dry food options out there that would have simulated the same concept. And so I went on this hunt to try to find, because to feed dog raw and to feed a keto on your own, and I was busy at the time to do that. It was a lot of work. So there's a few companies in the country, and this was many years ago. This was probably 15 years ago. There's a few companies that you could ship and order like raw food. And what it was all keto. It was all bones, and mostly bones and different meat sources, all milled into like a long tube. And then what they would do is they'd add different fillers, but the fillers were all low carb vegetable based. You might have got a little pinch of sweet potatoes in there. You might have got a little pinch of carrots and things like that in there. But as a whole, she was relatively keto or very low carb. And so that was my beginning journey of this raw diet, really keto, low carb aspect for my dog. And I figured, well, it's got anti-inflammatory for her. It should at least help somewhat. The problem was her kidneys weren't working very well. So my vet was very much against it at the time. Now he's very much for this concept, but at the time. And so about 6 months after doing this, it was like night and day. She was completely different dog. She was jumping in and out of the car. Remember, she couldn't even get in the car. I have a 100-pound lab, and I'm not well. Trying to get her in and out of my car wasn't easy. And she started running around the block again, playing ball. Like everything is, she was like a young puppy. And I was just blown away at how great this was. And so I was packing in food and I had to buy a freezer for it specifically because I didn't have room in my house, like packing it all in. And it was really an amazing experience. I even went across the country twice with her, packing dried ice it to keep it frozen, to go all the way across the country to feed her this diet because it made such a difference. I got to the East Coast and we had to drive. I couldn't get shipment there because of where I live in the East Coast. So I had to drive 3 hours to get her food and then 3 hours back to bring her food back. We had a freezer just specifically for this. Now, nowadays it's a lot easier, but the reality is that she did really, really well in this diet. And what we found is that most dogs would do. If I don't have a dog today, unfortunately, we have some allergies in our house now that would hinder that to a degree. And so I would put any dog I have on a raw diet at minimum, if not a keto low carb style raw diet for these dogs. But the results were extraordinary. She lived to 15 years old as a 100-pound lab. Vitality in her entire life, and her hips were shot. but you would never note it. She didn't walk around limping and whining and moping. She just always had a smile on her face. At the end, I gave her a little bit of anti-inflammatories just to help her for like mobility and things. And she was sharp when she went. And it was an amazing experience. So if you get a chance to check out the Pet Sanctuary, there's some amazing people there that do a ketogenic diet for dogs. The research behind it is extraordinary. A lot of research on different health conditions they use for dogs. So dogs are more compliant than humans. Humans tend to screw things up. Dogs are pretty straightforward and simple. And the research behind it's really cool. So if you either want the most out of your animals to get the most health out of them, and there's fur, their poops are very easy to clean up when you put them on a raw diet. Their fur is very soft, it's shiny, it's very vibrant. It's quite remarkable. Or if your dog's struggling with some things, it's way cheaper to put them on a good healthy diet like that than it is to go through a lot of the processes and procedures that people are spending money on. So nowadays, a lot of vets are looking at this as an option and they're open to it. It's funny because 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. It was hard to find people that were open and interested in it, just like us. People are, they think the ketogenic diet's extreme and crazy, but the reality, it's more close to what humans would have eaten like than different than what our current diets are. The current diets are very far from what our ancestors ate. The ketogenic diet or a low carb paleo diet is very similar to what our ancestors would have ate. So that's kind of a foundation of vitality and health. That's why I follow it. Am I perfect? Nope. But I'm pretty damn good and I feel great. Also why I drink ketones is because it's a great way to support it and not have to be perfect. Now I didn't have ketones to drink back when my dog was around. Otherwise I would have gave her those two as an added support, an added tool. So hope this helps you all if you have pets or at least dogs. Check this out and do your homework. There's a